This video is going to be about a lot of stuff, which I'll get into. But I'm going to start off by saying something I want everyone to do to get out of the way. It doesn't have much to do with the video, or if at all, but because this video is going to be about like mental stuff that's healthy. But I'm going to get into the physical stuff that's healthy first. You can use black African soap, real black African soap with no additives, just the real stuff, pure, to wash your face, your hair, beard, body, everything. It works. It's 100% healthy, safe, unless you're allergic to any empty ingredients. Otherwise, I would look into other body washes and hair washes, such as stuff from Native, etc. You can look into it. Native's not bad, not as good as black African soap, but we all have our allergies. Look into your allergies. Don't take what I say serious. You should get an allergy test. But that's out the way. For conditioner for your hair, though, black African soap can leave it a bit dry. So I haven't. My girlfriend will make it. I need to figure out how to make it, but you can look this up. You can use aloe vera if you're not allergic to it. Once again, as a natural, safe, and healthy conditioner. So that's that out the way. I had to burp a little bit. Another thing. There's this app on your app store. Apple, Android, doesn't matter. Go to the app store. There's going to be this app called Yuka. Now, Yuka is a great app. What you do is when you download it, you don't even need premium, but if you have premium, you can look stuff up instead of scanning it. But you scan stuff, right? At the grocery store, this can be hair products, body wash, or food. Other stuff like cleaning supplies, it doesn't do that for it yet, but you can research that. But it's very easy to use the app instead, which is why I recommend it for a lot of people like me who are a little bit lazy, trying to do better, but we gotta start somewhere. Scan the food you eat. You can see how healthy it is, see the dangerous additives that are inside of it, and this allows you to actually research the dangers of these additives, etc. So it's good for research. Not only that, it's good for staying healthy. Ever since I started using the app, which I do every time I go out to eat or anything, unless I remember the food I'm gonna get that I've already scanned before, I won't have to scan. But you know what I mean? I'll do that. All of a sudden, I feel great whenever I eat. All right, I'm eating way healthier. I feel great all the time. My digestive system's on track. I feel more awake. I'm getting less depressed. All that. Great app. Get into that. And one last thing. This is more so for your internet safety instead of your body or mind, but it's more so for your body as well. No, it's more so for your mind as well, but it can be for your body to block some toxic ads and stuff. What you're gonna want to do if you have a laptop, this might be pretty far-fetched, but if you want to, for some of you, but there's easy ways to do it, and I'll explain. If you want to avoid stuff like spyware that has targeted ads towards you, or you're tired of your computer just running slow in general, get Linux. Linux, Mint, or Ubuntu, or whatever is easiest. I have to take a call, but if you can do it, get Arch Linux. No judgment if you can't, but that's the way to go if you're looking for privacy and stuff. Okay, so I might split this video into segments because I'm gonna be referencing a lot of stuff I wrote to tell you guys. Because I'm not gonna lie, Instagram don't be getting as much attention when I write a lot of words. But I'm feeling like if I say shit out loud, it's more is better for the reception. So I'm gonna do that. But some important stuff I wrote. So there's a lot of cuts just because I'm referencing stuff. But I got the quick little health things for you guys out the way. I want to see everyone healthy and doing better, because that goes directly into your comprehension skills for stuff I'm going to say next. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so something I wrote about yesterday, I'm not going to read it word for word, but I'm going to go off of what I remember because I know what I'm talking about. I stay consistent because what I'm saying is true to myself and has been trying to be true to others. Of course, everyone takes it their own way, but I can hope that this resonates. A lot of us know what a PSYOP is, especially if we're like chronically online. You know what I mean? But if you don't, I'll explain it real quick. PSYOP is like PSYOP organization from government. It's basically like people, to explain it kind of half-assedly, people in the government who do stuff like make propaganda, but more modern day through social media and stuff, they're very tricky. They're like snakes. They'll try to sway public and stuff like that. Um, it's a very more so secretive organization. There have been many books about it. It's not hard to find publications of this stuff. Yeah, but basically, I had a weird phone call. Um, PSYOP, right? We're talking about PSYOPs. People have started to identify PSYOPs. And this is for the people in the community that are like anti-PSYOP and everything, right? I'm not doing pro-PSYOPs here. But I am saying people that are looking into PSYOPs are PSYOPing themselves by looking into the PSYOPs wrong and then taking up other PSYOPs to defeat another PSYOP. And that is essentially like running into one wall and then running into another trying to cure yourself. You're running into you're wasting your time. It's like another example how people will have internet arguments about Palestine or something online, and then once they're done with the argument, whenever notice how Palestine has received no more money than it originally did to help. No one's doing anything to actually help them, but they're arguing online about it. So you're wasting your energy on that. Or even how there's a thing where everyone has a hero complex, right? This is another example, but is rooted in some psychology of how, and this all relates to some sorrow in my opinion, but I won't get too deep into that right now. How people who, in any sport really, but I'm using football because it's easier to just do one. Every year, there are new teams going into the Super Bowl, usually, unless something happened. It doesn't matter. They won't always be the two teams the same in every Super Bowl. You have a temporary win every year for everything, and then you switch back again and you're going for another win. It's like you won, then you have to win again, then you have to win again, and everyone's trying to win again and again. They're searching for some. It's like a metaphor, not to say that these people necessarily are doing that, but in a way we can project the idea that every one of those players is searching for some sort of permanence and a temporary satisfaction for winning, right? They're trying to win forever, it seems like. Now, is that the perfect example? No. Does it suffice? Yes. You want to know why? I'm going to explain why now, because some people that will say that's not the perfect example, this whole video is going to be explaining why it kind of is. So, pause and I'll collect my thoughts and tell you. People do things to satisfy themselves. That's how it is. And how people satisfy themselves is going to be more or less so having their hero complex, their pride, their will to live basically confirms in themselves, because I keep forgetting the big words when I use. And when something like this happens, they're constantly naturally going to be searching for the shortest, easiest way to get a win, because their brain is kind of in survival mode, thinking it needs something, and so it will scavenge and it will find the easiest thing to latch on to over a long-term benefit, because it does not believe a long-term benefit is necessary right now, because it's in survival mode. Why would it be in survival mode? Well, if we're living in a world where everyone's arguing with each other, like on Instagram or whatever, or fighting each other for a win or whatever, so that they can hold that win, there's going to be a lot of losers. And those losers don't give up after they lose. They search for a win after they lost. And then they're going to start picking up small wins, right? They're going to pick up all the small wins they can. If a winner loses, they're kind of going to do the same thing, right? And so we're in a constant cycle of competitiveness where everyone's looking for small wins to satisfy themselves for a short time and going back for another small win after they haven't satisfied themselves for a short time long enough. It gets to the point where people start inventing ways for themselves to be sufficed or win. It's akin to how if you can't find bread, you'll start to eat things that you normally wouldn't eat. You'll start to do things for money you usually wouldn't do, you'll start to have pride for things you shouldn't be prideful for. You know what I mean? And so in this case, not this case, but given this example, people are constantly wasting their energy on small things that aren't good for them because they suffice for the moment. It's like how it's cheaper to go to a grocery store and get a ton of unhealthy food, but it's more expensive in the long term, having to pay a lot of hospital bills. It's cheaper to take pride in hurting others, but it's more expensive when in the future the people that you've hurt no longer trust you, and then they tell other people not to trust you, and all of a sudden you're wondering why no one trusts you. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. And this is because we have these ideas in our head based on our own perceptions of what makes us winners and what makes us losers, etc. In a way, people are going to be like, well, this isn't about winning or losing. But it is. You can say what you want, and I could rephrase it in a million different ways. And honestly, like, I might, just so I can make it make more sense. But it's all the same basis of winning or losing. It's about you achieving something you set your mind to. If you achieve it, you win. Even if that doesn't necessarily give you everything that you want, that achievement is a short-term satisfaction for you in some way, or a half fulfilled or a quarter fulfilled, whatever, satisfaction for you in some way. It makes me think that why are we chasing after these short-term goals for everyone? Why are we dismissing our morality and all these things so we can chase something to achieve something that isn't long-term beneficial to us or anyone around us? And by the way, we can't really be fully benefited forever if we don't benefit everyone else around us simultaneously forever. So if you're not ethical, you're also not sustainable. Given this, if people are always taking shortcuts for their own satisfaction, that's a huge issue. That's where logic comes in. We need to understand the inherent qualities of physical things and the inherent qualities of how we describe physical things, because we have to have a logical inherent term to describe something that has a logical inherentness to it. So if we're going to first understand how we're going to be fulfilled, we have to understand what we interact with and how it reacts to other things, like, for sure, how it's going to. It's like how when you get a pure element, right? In every single instance, depending on the experiment, is going to react the same to another element or whatever, unless we have something that's chaotic. But then even then we can be like, oh, then this has an unpredictable reaction. You know what I mean? And then we can determine what may be causing the unpredictableness, air quality, etc., right? We're basically understanding all the elements around us and considering how all those elements react to other elements, for sure. And then, like, we're also understanding what they are in and of themselves. We're understanding how they're useful, how they're detrimental, how they're useful in interactions with others, detrimental in interactions with others, and this is like for sure 100% of the time we're understanding this. We're understanding the environments that they must be in and which ones they must not be in. We're understanding neutralities, or the scale of what's better and worse of the environments or the reactions, etc. We're understanding these, like, basically scientific facts, if you will. And when we understand these things, we can then begin to develop our view of the world, and then how we act on our view of the world. And how we act is our view of the world, right? Now, our biases will allow us to take shortcuts, and instead of looking at the facts, we'll look at our experience and then relate it to everything else, which is not scientific or for sure in any means. but people act as it is because that is the fastest shortcut for them to have their hero complex, their pride intact. And their pride is what keeps them alive, because they were probably deprived of it early on or given too much of it. You know what I mean? So in that case, when we're looking at stuff like that, we begin to be more successful and have an actual understanding of what is needed to be done for us to be happy and others to be happy, for us to maintain our happiness. So in this, we have concept of delusion, right? What is really a delusion? A delusion is based off of heavy bias and lack of understanding of what is factual. It is more so a thought that, not thought, but more correlating to a chaos type of theory. And by the way, we're assuming we're applying this all to the world we're in right now and not to other possible worlds, because you're not in other possible worlds. There's not a necessary need to study what goes on there and apply it to here, which is what a lot of people will do. Their other possible worlds are things that they can imagine in their heads. Now, they're projecting their dreams onto reality. This is dangerous. This is how we get stuff like fascism. This is how fascism down to its core is how we get stuff like fascism. This is how we get stuff like people who have underthought views of the world that they paint religiously, that to kind of say they're false idols. This is how people begin to get deluded of what is actually healthy for them and not. Because if you're relating to the ideas, for example, that if you do not believe in Christ, you go to hell, you're going to have the idea of believing in Christ in your heart closer to you than the idea of being a good person, which is going to allow you to study the Bible over studying the logistics of studying the Bible to begin with. So you're going to have your own biased interpretation of it and fear that if you are not stuck in your immediate biased interpretation, that you will go to hell. And so when you prioritize one thing before another or over another, or too much compared to another, especially when it comes to logic as pertaining to everything else, you begin to be deluded and live more miserably, and then cause your projection of your delusion onto the real world to spread and make others live more miserably. This isn't shade on the Bible, by the way. I actually really like the Bible. I got a cross in my backpack every day. I got a Jesus statue. I love Jesus. But I can for sure say most people have no idea what the Bible is actually saying. And I can't blame them, because we live in a world where we have false preachers who will twist the words of the Bible and other religious texts for their own monetary gain. And then we have dreamers who are either infected by this or have lacked something else beforehand, and were very confident to begin with, who will spread their delusions even without the motive for monetary gain. Either way, they have the hero mentality where they have to be the hero. And at this point, and they're both delusional, by the way. One's just delusional thinking that money makes them happy. The other is delusional thinking that their worldview is the correct worldview, etc. And this is where all the issues come into play. People will start cults ending in suicide. People will be in cults and put their life savings into them. All of this. Where is this in the Bible? Where is this in these religious texts that you give your money to someone so they can teach you something? Where is it that Jesus was like, y'all should go and do group suicide so you can live in the astral realm with some God that I projected on to? it's not there, obviously. It's so ridiculous to even say that because we, as most people would know, it's not a thing. But it's something that needs to be said in general because it relates to this whole point of the video, that people fall to delusion too easily. And it lets them mess up their life because they lack logic. What is logic, by the way? I've said this before in other videos, but I know most of you don't watch all my videos before watching this one. That'd be not weird, but rare. Possibly weird if you're a word like that. So if you're watching this video, what is logic? I'll say it this way. Logic cannot exist without full empathy. Empathy, not sympathy. That sympathy is what leads into empathy. Sympathy is the seeing of something and desire to study and understand it in relation to the self, and not the self through like bias, but through like how does this affect me, how does it affect itself, etc. You begin to understand the nuance of what it needs, what it doesn't need, how it affects you in bad and good ways, etc. All of this, right? And so you begin to relate to it and also see it, and then that's when you begin to fully empathize with it. And so you get this empathy, right? This feeling of love towards it because you understand it and you see that it is not inherently wrong. And if you have done this to yourself beforehand, you'll see your places you strive in, the places you don't, the things you can do bad, the things you can do right as well. And so you'll see the relation that you are all sort of in the same spot where you can either be bad or good in one scenario, you can be striving or not striving in another scenario. You see, everything has a potential. This is where you begin to have empathy. When you understand that potential fully to your heart and you consider it naturally out of goodness. And logically speaking, we'll say that's just ethics. Some people will, right? That's kind of the same thing. Ethics is like the combination of logic and empathy, and real empathy isn't even just feeling bad for someone and because you're projecting your ideas of what they're feeling or anything, or you're projecting your ideas of their existence based on your preconceived notions, etc. That's not empathy, that's delusion. So logic and empathy and ethics and all of that are literally the same thing. Logically, you have to be empathetic and ethical, so they're the same thing, but they're parts of the same thing. It's why we have different words for them. I'm not going to go here and say we need one word, no. I'm not even going to make a diagram. I feel like you get it by now. Being this, we do live in a world of mass delusion that is hard to escape. It's like a thick world of molasses sometimes, where you're going to have to do things for yourself to strive in a world of mass delusion that may hurt others, and etc. So, if you want better for the world, you can't start with yourself and then be a hypocrite and put everything bad onto other people and then ignore it. You have to be someone who is a rectifier of this, if I'm using the right word, to fix something, basically. You have to find out the inherent systems of these elements of reality, right? And you have to find out how they interact with each other, and then you have to apply this interaction in a way where you affect others, inspire others to understand, and then act on it as you do, or how they may in a good way as well, based on their strengths, because you all have different strengths. And so that is what I would call a true enlightened activist against a world of molasses. But if we're not speaking in terms of you going against something, we're talking about someone who's just in general a good person. So in that instance, that would be the point of your reality and how you gain that intelligence to do so, by understanding the for sure elements of things, applying them, etc. You get it. I might do another part before I end the video, but this is pretty much the sum of it so far. And yeah, this may be the end. If it's not, you'll see another part, but I'm gonna stop it right now and go back to it. Now this video may be too vague. Of course it's gonna be a short video, I'm not a genius, I'm 22, but I do understand that people are not going to know how to even start based on the advice I gave them. They might understand the advice, but they're not going to go and be like, well, I don't know the systems in which I have to understand if something's for sure. I don't know the systems in which I can understand if something's entirely logical. That's where I say, if you don't know something, don't go applying it rampantly. Learn before you do something, right? And how do you learn? That's still vague, right? There are a few ways to learn. First of all, you're going to have to see consistently the same and experiments done on something, if you will. And you have to see all those experiments consistently done the same way on a specific element have the same results. If it's consistently chaotic, the element's made of different elements, probably. Or the environment, not probably, rarely, or the environment is straight up just different in a way where they're trying to trick you into thinking it's the same, but it's not. And then you'll be like, okay, there's this question I have to ask for both instances, because I could have been faked out by 200 different people, or I could have been faked out by one and had the other 199 suppressed from me. So you can basically say, maybe a large company doesn't want you to think something's dangerous. So the top result for the studies could be one study they did where they had biased results, or 200 studies they did have biased results that outnumber the real studies that have unbiased results. So now you have to think, who is studying what, and what incentive do they have to lie to me? And this is just an example. It doesn't always have to be profit incentive. It can be delusion incentive. Sometimes people just might not be fully aware of all the aspects of what they need to apply to something in order to understand something. So that's not necessarily this like full delusion, but it's ignorance. All right, and we've seen that many times before, where people like the Earth's flat, or where people are like coming up to conclusions about something based on the structures they've made to understand something, but then they are too steadfast to be the hero to publish their studies and understandings to get credit for it, that they ignore crucial elements without checking their work. And so that means that they are going to be spreading something that is potentially dangerous. Do you know what I mean? So then who do we trust? Who do we trust? I will put it kind of simply. People I like to trust are emotionally stable, don't have extreme profit incentives, aren't associated with too many or any at all, if you're that paranoid, not very good people. And if they are, then they're like not like best friends with them or anything. They're more so trying to teach them. If they're trying to teach those people, that person could be trustworthy too, but don't get too illusioned that they may be wrapped up in their delusion as well. What else? There's nothing. Let me think about it. You're going to want to see someone who isn't overly prideful, someone that's not over binging at all in any substances. And me personally, I prefer the people that aren't binging at all in any substances. People who aren't connected in any way to people who may delude them as well, because they may be deluding you without even wanting to. You're going to want to look for well taken care of people who care about themselves, and you're going to want people who have good family relations, and you're going to want to know this instead of being tricked into it. So you're going to have to understand stuff like subtle nuances to perceiving how someone's relation to another is. This information is hard to get without bias. It really is. But I'm giving you guys the framework to go based off of it. You're going to want someone who's a solid person, right? Not someone who's pretending to be or someone who thinks they are very confidently. You're going to want a real confident, you're going to want a real person. A real, honest, genuine, smart, true person. And you're going to look at the red flags. You're not going to go and judge them or compare yourself to them. No. That is where interpersonalness comes in. You don't want to do that. Just focus on yourself if you're still doing that first, okay? The first person to focus on is you if you still have issues comparing yourself to others. You're going to want to study who they are logically. You're not going to want to compare them, but study them. There's a million different versions of a good, true, and honest person, but they all have a lot of stuff in common. So keep that in mind. You're also going to want to know if they are specifically the type of person who is good at that field and that is their main thing. Those are more trustworthy people. But then you're going to want to know how they get their education. Is it biased? One second. There's really too much to go into to bring it all in one video, but I think I've gone through enough. I've given you guys enough things, more than likely in a short little going for it type video. I've wrote all of this stuff before to reference and bring about now. So in that respect, I'm going to end the video soon. Study the things that you've learned, put them in your mind, figure it out, go by the steps you need to first to get to the next thing. Life isn't a rush. If you rush it, you're going to fuck up faster. If you're going to do anything, do it the right way. It doesn't matter how late you start, because if you start rushing at a certain time, then you're setting yourself up for failure long term. So do it right. Everyone has their own right way, but there is a structure to do things the correct way and your way. So don't think that you're a bot because you're following some rules. You're not. They aren't even rules. You can do what you want. You can fuck up if you want. That's what's going to happen if you don't go by the platform. You're not being forced to do anything, but for your own interest, you should probably consider the facts of the things I've said in this video for like your own benefit. And yeah, of course, that's kind of all I gotta say, really. Stay healthy, stay good, learn, and I don't know, I might make another video after this on something else, but peace out, guys, and I hope you have a great day.